Be me Scott, 34. Work in IT keeping networks alive and behaving. Not exactly thrilling work, but the paycheck lands reliably and life stays comfortable. A couple years ago, I managed to grab a place in a calm suburban neighborhood. Been married to Alma for around 5 years now. Back when we first crossed paths, she came across as sharp, witty, and driven. Conversation flowed easily, one of those rare moments where everything just lined up. Things were good for the first couple of years. Really good. Then something started to shift. Alma works in HR for a big tech company. She started bringing her work home, but not the paperwork. She brought the ideology home. Suddenly, everything I did was seen through a new lens. The way I talked, the shows I watched, even the way I loaded the dishwasher. It all started with little comments. She'd be scrolling on her phone and just say, "Ugh, men." I'd be watching a classic action movie and she'd walk through the room. "Can't you watch something that isn't about male rage and explosions?" I'd laugh it off at first. Thought it was just her being passionate about her work. Then it started getting personal. Our intimacy, which used to be natural and fun, became transactional. It became a reward for my good behavior. One of the first times I really noticed it, I had forgotten to pick up some specific brand of almond flour she wanted. I got a different brand. Thought it wouldn't be a big deal. That night, I tried to initiate things in the bedroom. She turned away, pulling the covers tight. I asked if something was wrong. Her voice was cold. She told me she didn't feel seen. She said that my failure to get the right flour wasn't about the flour. It was a symptom of me not listening to her, not valuing her needs. She explained that she couldn't be intimate with someone who didn't respect her on that fundamental level. I was just stunned. Over flour. I apologized, tried to explain it was a simple mistake. It didn't matter. The verdict was in. I was on the couch for the next 2 nights. That became the pattern. Any disagreement, no matter how small, resulted in the same punishment. The silent treatment, the cold shoulder, and the bedroom door becoming an impenetrable wall. It was always framed in her HR speak. I wasn't just wrong, I was perpetuating harmful dynamics. I didn't just disagree, I was failing to hold space for her lived experience. She wanted to go on this expensive yoga retreat with her friends. I looked at our finances and suggested maybe we could do something cheaper together later in the year. Bad move. Apparently, I was trying to financially control her and devalue her need for self-care and community with other women. The accusation was that I was exhibiting classic toxic masculinity. That conversation ended with a week-long deep freeze. I felt like I was losing my mind. I started walking on eggshells around my own home. Before I'd say anything, I would run it through a mental checklist. Could this be misinterpreted? Is there a way this could be seen as problematic? It was exhausting. My own house didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like her office, and I was the employee constantly on the verge of being written up. Her friend Megan would come over sometimes. I used to like Megan. She was down to earth. But around Alma, she'd just nod along. I'd hear them talking in the kitchen while I was in the living room. Alma would be complaining about some microaggression I'd committed, like using the wrong towel or leaving my gym bag by the door. She would describe it in the most dramatic terms possible, like I was actively trying to disrespect her personal space. Megan would just say, "Oh wow, I'm so sorry you have to deal with that." I just wanted to scream, "It's a gym bag!" But I didn't. I just sat there, feeling invisible in my own house. The weaponization of intimacy became the new normal. It was the ultimate trump card she could play in any argument. And it always worked because I loved her. I still wanted her. I missed the way we used to be. So, I'd eventually break. I'd apologize for whatever crime I had committed. I'd buy the right flour, agree to the expensive trip, promise to be more mindful. Then, after a few days of me being the perfect reformed husband, things would thaw. She'd be affectionate again, for a little while. It felt less like making love and more like being granted a temporary pardon. And the whole time, I knew the cycle would just start over again. I felt trapped, pathetic. I was constantly trying to earn back something that should have been freely given in a marriage. A few months ago, things really started to escalate. There was this one evening, just a regular weeknight. I came home from work. I had a good day, closed a big project. I cooked dinner for us, one of her favorite meals. I cleaned up the kitchen while she was on a long video call for work. Later, we were sitting on the couch. I put my arm around her. She immediately tensed up. "Scott, can you not?" I pulled my arm back like I'd touched a hot stove. I asked her what was wrong this time. She let out this huge theatrical sigh. She told me she had spent all day on a diversity and inclusion seminar. She had to listen to hours of testimony from women about their struggles in the workplace. It was, in her words, incredibly draining emotional labor. And then she comes home, and I just expect physical affection without considering her emotional state. She said it showed a profound lack of empathy, that my desire for physical connection was a form of male entitlement. She didn't want to be an object for my gratification after a long day of fighting the patriarchy. I just sat there. I had made dinner. I had cleaned the house. I had given her space all evening. All I did was put my arm around my own wife, and I was being lectured like I was some kind of monster. I didn't say anything. I just got up and went to the guest room. I didn't sleep much that night. I just kept replaying conversations from the last few years in my head. I realized it was never about me being a better partner. It was about me being a more obedient one. It was all about control, her control. The affection was the lever, and I was the one being moved. The next morning, I woke up feeling hollow, but also for the first time, a little bit clear. I decided I'd try one more time, one last, genuine effort. I thought if I did something big, something undeniably good for us, maybe she'd see that I was on her team. Maybe it would break the cycle. A couple weeks after that, I got the news. A promotion at work. It came with a nice raise and more responsibility. I was genuinely excited. This wasn't just for me. It meant more financial security for us. We could save more, maybe take a really nice vacation, not just her yoga retreat. I came home that day with a bottle of the good champagne, the one we had at our wedding. I told her the news. Her reaction was muted. She gave me a quick, "Oh, congrats," and then immediately asked if it meant I'd be working longer hours. I tried to brush it off, keep the mood positive. I told her I had made a reservation at that fancy downtown restaurant she always wanted to try for that Saturday night, a real celebration. She agreed, but without any enthusiasm. It was like I was inviting her to a dentist appointment. Saturday came, I put on my best suit. I felt good. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would be a turning point. Alma came out wearing a nice dress, but her expression was sour. The whole car ride downtown was tense. I tried to make small talk. She just gave one-word answers. At the restaurant, the atmosphere was amazing. Low lighting, soft music. I tried to talk about the future, about what we could do with the extra money. "Maybe we can finally remodel the kitchen like you wanted." Her response was, "Or maybe we can donate more to charities that support women fleeing domestic abuse. Put the money towards something that actually matters." The comment hung in the air like a bad smell. It completely deflated me. I felt like she was intentionally trying to make me feel small and selfish for being proud of my achievement. We finished the meal in near silence. On the drive home, she was on her phone, scrolling. I didn't even try to talk anymore. When we got back to the house, I was just tired. The excitement was gone, replaced by that familiar, heavy feeling of disappointment. But I thought, okay, the dinner was a bust, but we're home now. Maybe we can salvage the evening. I went into the living room, poured us both a small glass of whiskey. I handed one to her. I raised my glass. Well, despite everything, to the future. She didn't raise her glass. She just stared at me. "What future, Scott?" I was confused. "Our future, a better one." And then she said it. The thing that finally broke me. She looked at me with this mix of pity and disdain. "You don't get it, do you? You got a promotion. You climbed another rung on the corporate ladder. You succeeded inside a system designed by men, for men. A system that actively holds women down." I just stood there, holding my drink. She continued, "You come home expecting me to celebrate this? To celebrate you becoming a more successful cog in the patriarchal machine? You want me to be proud of that?" Her voice got quiet, but somehow sharper. "And now you want to be rewarded for it. You want to come home and have your wife fall into bed with you because you're the big man now, the provider. That's what this is about, isn't it?" I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. I just shook my head slowly. She let out a short, bitter laugh. "I can't be intimate with someone who is so blind to his own privilege. I can't be attracted to that. You haven't done anything to deserve that kind of connection tonight. You've done the opposite. Deserve. That one word hit me like a physical blow. I had to deserve affection from my own wife. And my hard work, my success, the very thing I was doing to provide for our life together, was now a mark against me. It was a disqualification. Something inside me didn't just break, it turned to dust. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I didn't see the woman I married. I saw a stranger, an adversary, a judge who had already passed sentence. I didn't feel anger, I didn't feel sadness, I felt nothing. It was a profound, terrifying, and strangely liberating emptiness. The game was over. I wasn't just tired of playing. I had forgotten the rules and didn't care to learn them again. I put my glass down on the coffee table, untouched. I didn't say a word. I turned around, walked up the stairs, and went into the guest room. I closed the door. I lay down on the bed, still in my suit. And for the first time in years, I didn't care if she was angry. I didn't care if she was giving me the silent treatment. I didn't care about earning or deserving anything. It just didn't matter anymore. I had nothing left to give, and I was done trying to ask. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The feeling of emptiness was still there, but it wasn't painful. It was quiet. I got out of bed, put on some old running shoes and shorts I hadn't worn in years. I went outside into the cold morning air, and I just started running. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like lead. When I got back, sweating and exhausted, Alma was in the kitchen making coffee. She looked at me, surprised. She was probably expecting a mopey, apologetic husband. She said, "Where were you?" I just said, "Went for a run." I walked past her, went upstairs, and took a long shower. I didn't try to talk to her. I didn't try to fix last night. I just got ready for my day. That evening, after work, I didn't come straight home. I found a gym near my office, a proper one, with free weights and squat racks. I walked in and signed up for a year-long membership. I had my first workout in almost a decade. It hurt. Everything hurt. But it was a good kind of hurt, a clean kind, something I was in control of. I got home late. Alma was on the couch watching some show. She gave me that look, the "you're in trouble" look. "You're late. You didn't even call." In the past, this would have been the start of a 3-day argument. I would have apologized profusely, made excuses, tried to placate her. This time, I just shrugged. My phone was in my locker. I went to the gym after work. I went to the kitchen, made myself a protein shake, and went upstairs. I didn't ask her about her day. I didn't engage. It was like a switch had been flipped in my brain. Her emotional state was no longer my responsibility. Her moods, her anger, her disappointment, they were just noise now, like a TV on in another room. For the next few weeks, this was the new routine. Up early, run, work all day, gym after work, home late, eat, shower, read a book in the guest room, sleep. We were living like roommates, polite but distant. Alma didn't know what to do. Her main weapon was useless. How can you punish someone with silence when they seem to be enjoying the peace and quiet? How can you withhold intimacy from someone who isn't asking for it? She tried a few times to start a fight. She'd bring up my new obsession with the gym. She said I was being selfish, avoiding my responsibilities at home. I'd just calmly list the things I'd already done. The lawn is mowed, the trash is out, I fixed the leaky faucet. What responsibilities am I avoiding? She couldn't give a real answer. She accused me of being passive-aggressive. I told her I wasn't being aggressive at all. I was just busy. She was losing her grip, and she knew it. She was like a magician whose favorite trick suddenly stopped working in front of a live audience. The confusion on her face was slowly being replaced by something else, annoyance, and maybe, for the first time, a little bit of fear. The physical changes started happening faster than I expected. The combination of running and lifting meant the weight started to come off. My old clothes started to hang off me. I went out one weekend and bought a whole new wardrobe, jeans that actually fit, shirts that weren't baggy. I looked in the mirror and saw a glimpse of the guy I used to be 10 years ago. It felt good. I started rediscovering old hobbies too. I had an old mountain bike in the garage, collecting dust for years. I spent a whole Saturday tuning it up, cleaning the chain, getting it ready. The next day, I drove out to a state park with some trails and just rode for hours. I came home covered in mud, exhausted, and happier than I'd been in a very long time. Alma saw me come in, dirty and smiling. The look on her face was unreadable. I think, up until that point, she thought this was all some prolonged sulk, a phase I was going through to get her attention, but seeing me genuinely happy from something that had absolutely nothing to do with her, I think that's when it started to sink in. This wasn't about her at all. This was about me, and that was the one thing her playbook had no counter for. The change in the house's atmosphere was palpable. It used to be thick with tension, like the air before a thunderstorm. I was always waiting for the next lightning strike. Now, it was just quiet, empty. I was a ghost in my own home, and I found that I preferred it that way. Alma, on the other hand, hated the silence. She had used it as a weapon for so long, and now it was just there, a neutral force. She couldn't stand it. She started trying to fill the void with noise. The TV was always on, loud. She'd have long animated phone calls with her friends, making sure I could hear her laughing from the other room. It was a performance. See, I'm happy. I don't need you. But it was transparently false. I'd walk through the living room while she was on the phone, and her laughter would die in her throat. She'd watch me, her eyes tracking my every move, waiting for a reaction. I gave her none. I'd just grab a water bottle from the fridge and head back to my room. Her friend Megan came over for coffee one Saturday afternoon. I was on my way out, dressed in my biking gear, helmet in hand. I said a polite hello to Megan, asked how she was doing. We had a brief normal conversation for about 30 seconds. Alma just stood in the kitchen doorway, watching us, her arms crossed. Megan's eyes kind of widened as she looked at me. "Wow, Scott, you're looking really fit. The biking is agreeing with you." It wasn't flirty, it was just an observation, a statement of fact. I just smiled. "Thanks, Megan. It feels good to be active again. Anyway, you two have a good catch-up. I've got to hit the trails before it gets dark." And I left. I can only imagine the conversation that followed. I found out a bit about it later because Alma tried to use it against me. That night, she knocked on the guest room door, a rare event. I told her to come in. She stood there, looking at me reading my book. She tried to sound casual. "So, Megan thought you seemed well." I just nodded. "She's nice." Then came the accusation, wrapped in a layer of feigned concern. She thought it was a little strange how you've been acting, distant, almost like a different person. She was worried about us. I saw exactly what she was doing, triangulating, using her friend's supposed concern to validate her own narrative. I didn't take the bait. "I'm not a different person, Alma. I'm just focusing on myself for a change." Her mask of concern slipped a little. Her voice got an edge. "Focusing on yourself, or running away from our problems? You're shutting me out. You're building a wall. That's a form of hostility, you know. It's a classic passive-aggressive tactic." There it was again. The HR jargon. The psychological diagnosis of my every action. The old me would have gotten defensive. I would have argued, tried to explain myself. The new me just felt tired of the game. I put a bookmark in my book and looked at her. Is it? Or is it just me deciding not to participate in arguments I can't win? She was taken aback by the directness. "What's that supposed to mean?" I sighed. "It means I'm done walking on eggshells. I'm done measuring every word. I'm just living. I'm sorry if that's inconvenient for you." She stared at me for a long moment, her mind probably racing, trying to find the right therapeutic term to label my behavior. She came up with nothing. She just said, "This isn't healthy, Scott," and walked out, closing the door a little too hard. The interaction confirmed my decision. There was no going back. Her only way of relating to me now was through the lens of conflict and pathology. My self-improvement wasn't a good thing for me. It was an unhealthy coping mechanism. My calm wasn't peace. It was passive aggression. My independence wasn't growth. It was a wall. It was then I realized she didn't want a partner. She wanted a project. And when the project started fixing itself, she didn't know what to do. The next phase of her strategy was even more predictable. If the stick doesn't work, try the carrot. It happened about 2 months into my new routine. I had lost about 20 pounds of fat and gained a good bit of muscle. My face was leaner, my posture was better. I felt like I was inhabiting my own body again. I was also sleeping better. The physical exhaustion from the gym and the mental peace of not fighting all the time was a powerful combination. One Friday, I got a text from her in the middle of the day. "Don't worry about dinner tonight. I'm making your favorite." The smiley face was so out of character, it was almost comical. I was immediately suspicious. I didn't reply. I finished work, went to the gym, had a killer workout. I deliberately stayed a little longer than usual. I got home around 9 p.m. I walked in, and the whole house smelled amazing. She had made lasagna from scratch, something she hadn't done since our first year of marriage. There were candles lit on the dining room table. A bottle of red wine was open, and Alma. She was wearing this silky black dress that I hadn't seen in years. Her hair was done, her makeup was perfect. She was putting on the full court press. She smiled at me as I walked in, a slow, deliberate smile. "Hi, honey." I was starting to get worried. The honey felt alien coming from her lips. "Just got held up at the gym," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Well, go get cleaned up. Dinner's ready. I saved you a plate." I knew exactly what this was. This was the ultimate test. This was her reasserting the old dynamic. "See, I have what you want. I can be the woman you miss. All you have to do is come back in line. All you have to do is start wanting me again, so I can take it away when you misbehave." It was the most calculated, manipulative thing I had ever seen her do. And it didn't stir a single thing in me. No desire, no nostalgia, just a profound sense of disappointment. I went upstairs and took a shower. When I came back down, wearing a simple t-shirt and sweats, she was sitting at the table, a glass of wine in her hand. She had put my plate in the oven to keep it warm. I sat down, and we ate in silence for a few minutes. She was watching me, waiting for me to say something, to praise the food, to compliment her dress, to acknowledge the effort, to show weakness, to show that the carrot was working. I just ate my food. It was good, but it tasted like strategy. Finally, she broke the silence. "It's nice, isn't it, to have a proper meal together, like we used to?" I just nodded. "The lasagna is good." Her smile tightened. That wasn't the response she wanted. After dinner, I started clearing the plates. She put her hand on my arm to stop me. "Leave it. Let's go relax in the living room." She led the way. The lights were dim. Some soft, jazzy music was playing. The whole scene was so ridiculously staged. She sat on the couch and patted the spot next to her. I remained standing. "I'm actually pretty tired, Alma. I think I'm just going to turn in." The frustration on her face was clear now. She was losing control of the scene she had so carefully constructed. She stood up and walked over to me. She put her hands on my chest, looking up at me through her eyelashes. The old, familiar move. "Are you sure? It's been a long time. I've missed you." Her voice was a low whisper. This was it. The final, desperate play. She was offering me the very thing she had withheld for years. The prize I was supposed to constantly strive for. And as she stood there, trying to seduce me, I felt nothing but a sad, clinical detachment. I looked at her, at the performance, at the manipulation so thinly veiled by desire. I gently took her hands off my chest. "What are you doing, Alma?" I asked. My voice was quiet, with no anger in it. Her confidence wavered. "I'm trying to connect with my husband." I gave a small, humorless shake of my head. "No, you're not. You're trying to see if the leash still works." Her eyes flashed with anger. The seductress vanished, replaced by the cornered HR manager. "That's a horrible thing to say. Is it, or is it just the truth?" I took a step back, creating space between us. "I'm not interested, Alma. I'm going to bed." I turned to walk away. That's when she completely lost it. "You're not interested?" Her voice was suddenly loud, shrill. "I go to all this effort. I make you a beautiful dinner. I try to be romantic. I practically throw myself at you, and you're not interested?" She followed me as I walked toward the stairs. "What is wrong with you, Scott? What more do you want from me? Is this because of the gym? Did you meet someone else? Is that it?" The accusations came fast and furious. It was always easier for her to imagine a third party than to look at her own behavior. I stopped at the bottom of the stairs and turned to face her. She was standing there, flushed with anger, her beautiful facade completely shattered. And for the first time, I think she looked truly scared, because she had just played her very last card, the ace of spades she'd held up her sleeve for years. And I had just looked at it and folded without a second thought. Her power over me was gone, not just gone, but revealed to be an illusion I had helped her maintain. "I haven't met anyone else," I said, my voice still calm. It seemed to make her even angrier. Then what is it? She screamed, her voice echoing in the quiet house. Talk to me. Why are you rejecting me? What did I do? I looked at her, at the mess of her own making, and I knew this was the moment, the end. You really want to know? She just glared at me, breathing heavily. Okay, I said, and my voice was flat, devoid of emotion. You did this. You. I started to walk up the stairs, and she followed, listening. For years, you've treated intimacy like a commodity. It was something I had to earn, a bonus for good performance, and you were the manager who decided if I met my KP. I reached the top of the stairs and turned. She was a few steps below me, looking up. Every time I disappointed you, you'd withdraw it. Didn't buy the right groceries, no affection, disagreed about a vacation, bedroom door is locked. Had a good day at a job you deemed part of the problem? I don't deserve it. Her face was pale. She tried to interrupt, to say it wasn't like that. I held up a hand. Let me finish. You taught me very effectively that your affection was conditional. So, I learned to live without the conditions. I stopped trying to meet them. I walked down the hallway to the guest room, my room. I poured all the energy I was spending trying to please you into pleasing myself. I started getting fit, rediscovering hobbies, finding peace in just being me, without having to constantly apologize for it. I opened the door to the room and flicked on the light. You taught me that I didn't need you to be happy. You just taught me the lesson so well that I started to realize I'm actually happier without you. Her expression crumpled. The anger was replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated panic. That's not true, Scott. I love you. The words sounded hollow, desperate, a last-ditch effort. No, I said, shaking my head. You love the control you had over me, and now that it's gone, you're lost. You're a queen with no subjects. I stepped into the room and turned to face her one last time. She was standing in the hallway, looking small and defeated. The ironic thing is, you spent all this time talking about toxic masculinity and how I was part of a broken system. But our marriage was the most toxic system I've ever been a part of, and you were the one in charge. I took a deep breath. It was time. I met with a lawyer last week, Alma. I had the papers drawn up. The blood drained from her face. She looked like she was going to be sick. You can't be serious, she whispered. I've never been more serious in my life, I said. You wanted me to do the work, right? That was always your phrase. Well, I did. I worked on myself. And the man I've become can't be in a marriage like this. I already had a bag packed in the closet. I had been preparing for this moment for weeks. I pulled it out. It wasn't much, just a few days' worth of clothes and my work laptop. I walked past her, out of the room. She didn't move. She was like a statue. I walked down the stairs, opened the front door, and didn't look back. I put my bag in my car and just sat there for a minute in the driver's seat. The house was dark behind me. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. I started the car and drove away. I left her in the quiet house with the fancy dinner and the soft music. I left her alone with the silence she had created. She had spent years trying to shape me into the man she thought I should be. In the end, she succeeded. She just never considered that this new man wouldn't want her.